The Russians don't understand but one language, and that's strength, it's force, it's power, it's might. And I think that any man that's negotiating with the Russians is handicapped if he's reducing the strength that's behind his negotiations. I believe as General Marshall said that negotiations that are not supported by strength can only result in appeasement. And if you'll analyze that, you'll see it's just about right.
Momentous events in the history of science. In less than a minute, you will see the most powerful explosion ever witnessed by human eyes. The blast will come out of the horizon just about there. And this is the significance of the moment. This is the first full-scale test of a hydrogen device. If the reaction goes, we're in the thermonuclear era. For the sake of all of us, and for the sake of our country, I know that you join me in wishing this expedition well. 1, T-0.
I feel impelled to speak today in a language that, in a sense, is new. One which I, who have spent so much of my life in the military profession, would have preferred never to use. That new language is the language of atomic warfare. The Soviet Union has informed us that over recent years it has devoted extensive resources to atomic weapons. The knowledge now possessed by several nations will eventually be shared by others, possibly all of us.
In your opinion, are we maintaining a position of strength, of leadership in comparison with Russia?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. I think that we are maintaining our leadership in the all-important field of nuclear weapons. We have never sought to keep up with the Russians and ground forces. That's impossible. They'd bankrupt us because American private, not a private first class, but American private gets practically the equivalent pay of a Russian brigadier general. We just can't afford to match them on ground forces. But we have, by maintaining our lead in the field of atomic and hydrogen weapons and in the means to deliver them,
Does that include
maintained our overall supremacy. Now, of course, the Russians are making vast progress in that field, and no one knows just when they will overtake us. I don't think they have yet, but they are making great progress. And it'd be very little reassurance to us to have 10,000 bombs if the Russians had 1,000, because 1,000 could destroy practically the ability to wage war industrially of either country.
Senator, you're one of the Senate's leading experts on military affairs, and
thank you.
I wanted to ask you in that connection whether the loss of Vietnam would be a very rude and very great strategic blow for us, perhaps costing us further in the Southwest Pacifics and Southwest Asia.
I think as of today that the loss of South Vietnam would be a larger, would be a worse blow to our world prestige and to our reputation for keeping our word under all conditions than it would be from either a strategic or a tactical or an economic standpoint. I don't think it has any value strategically, and if we can depend on our missiles to defend us from here, well, we don't have to have South Vietnam to hold back the hordes of communism.
Senator, can we carry it just to one more point? Could you clarify this? And the implication of what you say, that we should have all the weapons necessary, carries us, of course, to atomic weapons and to tactical weapons. Do you or do you not have that in mind?
No, I do not. We've got them running out of our ears. That's one area where there's no shortage. We've got plenty of atomic weapons, but I think everyone knows that we're not going to fire the first atomic weapon unless it's in a moment of very great desperation, and when the lives of thousands of American citizens are involved.
The Congress had passed a resolution. I wrote the final draft of it in my own hand. I was acted as chairman of the two committees on foreign relations and armed services to handle it. That restated the Monroe Doctrine. We'd been getting away from that. And also said that any offensive weapons in Cuba would be an act of aggression against the United States, or in substance said that. So I told the president that day, I said, Mr. President, this is the last time we'll have a reason for doing it. We can go in there and get these missiles and hold them up and say, now here they are. They were getting ready to attack us. But if you follow your policy, I don't doubt but it will work. But we'll never have another reason for getting Castro out of there. And as long as he's there, he's going to be a cancer on the body of this hemisphere. I'm still convinced that if we'd gone in there and cleaned up Castro and communism and let the people of Cuba have an election for their own government, that we wouldn't be in this trouble in Vietnam now. I haven't believed in being a world policeman, and I have tried my best to keep them from embarking on these smaller adventures. We just drawn into them by our so-called allies and friends in international relations, and by our desire to keep the United Nations functioning. I'm in favor of the United Nations functioning, but I have no faith whatever in the United Nations as a defense for this country, not the slightest. There's a force at work in this country that's cultivating a mistrust of the military and a feeling that we ought to tremendously reduce our defenses. They do it by raising the questions of priorities, for example, between the hungry child and a machine gun. Now, who's going to say, let's get the machine gun and let the child stay hungry? You can't say it. But it's really it's not that narrow a question. Unless we do have the machine gun, that child will never have any opportunities, whatever, to grow up in a free society, in my opinion.